Is there really no problem with this parchment scroll? In the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang a bit of doubt flashed. When she followed the family elders, they would tell her that some people would seal a real treasure using some methods. As a result, many would miss the treasure. Only those who knows about it could unlock it. Her fingertips kept gently rubbing the parchment roll, while considering what to do, what was feasible. Suddenly there was a firm light in the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang. It didn't matter, she should give it a try. Next, Bailey Hongzhuang reached out for a candle. Seeing her actions, all three beasts showed a bit of confusion. They quickly asked, "Master, what are you doing? Since I don't know if this parchment scroll is useful, it's better to try some different methods. If it is successful, it'll obviously be the best, but if it isn't, that's fine too. If it isn't, it would have been useless in my hands anyway." Bailey Hongzhuang was indifferent. She knew that the method of burning it with fire was somewhat risky, but how would she know if it worked without trying it? If it failed, then it would not matter. Hearing it, the three beasts thought for a moment before they nodded their heads. What their owner said made a lot of sense. They had no reason to object. Bailey Hongzhuang placed the parchment scroll on top of the candle, allowing for the heat to penetrate through the material. The parchment scroll twisted at this temperature for a moment, but Bailey Hongzhuang saw that there were 3 layers to this parchment scroll. The front and the back were ordinary parchment scrolls, and the landscape painting which had been drawn so beautifully had now become nothing. In the middle of the 2 layers, a small thin piece of paper appeared. Success! Little Black couldn't help but be excited. This was truly the feeling of finding a treasure. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips also turned into a bright smile. It seemed that her judgment was correct. When she had rubbed the parchment scroll, she had felt that the material was slightly thicker than normal, but there was really not much of a difference. She did not think that there was something wrapped within the 2 layers of parchment paper. It seemed that whomever had made this parchment scroll had spent a whole lot of thought on it. It was very difficult to make the parchment scroll this thin and perfectly blend the 2 pages together. Since even she had been unable to tell anything was amiss, Bailey Hongzhuang knew that this was not an easy thing to achieve. After burning the parchment scroll, Bailey Hongzhuang took the piece of paper that had been in the middle and placed it on the table. After the burnt paper slowly disappeared, Bailey Hongzhuang saw the content of the paper. This is a map. After seeing the content that was drawn on the paper, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be stunned. "Master, this should be a map," Little Black agreed with a nod of his head. "However, this is not the entire map." Bailey Hongzhuang carefully looked at the mountains and rivers that were drawn on the paper, and she also saw a red route that was drawn onto the map. It was just that there was a starting point, but there was no end point to it. Looking at the mountains and rivers at the edge, Bailey Hongzhuang could also be certain that this was not a complete map. This should only be a part of the map. As for the other parts, I am afraid I don't know where they are. When Bailey Hongzhuang's words fell, the expressions of the 3 beasts turned somewhat disappointed. "I thought it would be a treasure map, but where are the other parts?" Little Black snorted. "Even if it is a treasure map, finding the other parts will be very difficult." It went to show that just this piece of paper was so well hidden. It was really not simple. How well would the other parts be hidden? However, it was a true accident that they had been able to find this map. The Shengxian continent was so big, and they really didn't know where to go to find the other parts. They didn't even know if they would see the second part of this map in their lifetime. Bailey Hongzhuang gently petted Little Black's head. This little one was correct. Anyway, it's not a bad thing to have it in my hands. In the future, if we are able to find the rest, then that'd naturally be the best. But even if we don't, then that's just how it is. Bailey Hongzhuang was very calm about this. This kind of thing could not be controlled by humans. It all depended on luck. At least it proved that her previous judgment was correct. There was really something within the parchment scroll. Early the next morning, Bailey Hongzhuang gathered with the others outside the inn. The rest they had was enough to make them feel refreshed. Now it was time to continue. Bailey Hongzhuang returned the inn to the shopkeeper, but he returned the purple gold coins to Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing the situation, Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised and puzzled. "What are you doing?" The shopkeeper smiled. "Girl, you gave me far too much money to buy this in from me. It is enough to buy quite a few inns. How could I accept your money? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and waved. Since I said so, naturally I meant it. You should accept it. Girl, I know you were forced to do this yesterday. I also want to thank you for helping me out. The money, however, I can't afford to accept. The attitude of the shopkeeper was very firm. He had been doing business for many years and had never cheated a customer. He couldn't take advantage of this girl. If you refuse to accept the money, then I can only choose to give up my inn, but the inn is very important to me. Everyone saw that the shopkeeper was so stubborn, and they could not help but be surprised. Everyone wanted to profit, but the shopkeeper was doing the exact opposite. Suddenly they all had a very good impression of the shopkeeper. Such people were very rare nowadays. Hongzhuang, since the shopkeeper said so, then accept the money, Xia Jiqing persuaded her. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked deeply at the shopkeeper and said, Well, thank you then. The shopkeeper waved his hand again and again. This is how it should be. Be safe on your journey. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others got ready to start traveling again and planned on leaving Longguang town. When the shopkeeper returned to the counter, he was surprised to see that there was a purple gold coin on the counter. When he saw this, the shopkeeper could not help but laugh. His heart was a little more grateful towards Bailey Hongzhuang. So talented, she will become something big in the future. Soon after Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had appeared, the cultivators of Beihai College also showed up. When enemies meet, it is natural for jealousy to appear. If eyes could kill, then Bailey Hongzhuang would have died several times over. Yesterday Lu Jingqi ate a loss twice in the hand of Bailey Hongzhuang, and she was very unhappy. She did not think that the mentor would scold them for this matter, but it really made her feel suffocated. If she could, she would have killed both Xia Jiqing and Bailey Hongzhuang, but she did not have enough confidence in her strength, so she had no other option than to endure. Lu Jinglin and the others were also cold after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and her friends, not at all concealing the hatred in their eyes. However, the mentors had already told them not to start any fights. If they truly wanted to fight, then they had to wait until they arrived at Lingying College. They had no other option than to listen to their mentor. However, their hearts were hurting, and they couldn't wait to let this bad breath out. Xia Jiqing noticed that although Lu Jingqi had seen her, she did nothing. It was a bit strange, but she could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at the members from Beihai College with indifference before they turned back towards the road leading to Lingying College. In fact, from beginning to end, it was always the students of Beihai College that were looking for trouble. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not the kind of people to stir up a conflict. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others left, the practitioners from Beihai College picked another road. If they stayed on the road that Bailey Hongzhuang and those had picked, then they would meet all the time, and they would be unable to hold back. The cultivators from Beihai College took another road from us. That's strange. Xia Jiqing said in a loud voice. That's not their style. Dongfang Yu's eyes were also slightly surprised when he answered. They took another route today, and their mood was quite different. I think they were reprimanded by their mentor. Although they could not see the mentors, they knew they were close by. Everything that happened yesterday was likely to be known to the Beihai College mentors. The confrontation between the students was already so volatile, but the confrontation between the mentors would be even more intense. Xia Jiqing smiled brightly. You're most likely right. It has to be like this. Even if they had lost twice, with the character of Lu Jingqi, it was impossible to back down like this. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a slight smile. Sooner or later we'll meet again. Let's go. After 2 weeks, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others finally arrived at the imperial capital of the Qing dynasty. The Qing dynasty was a large country, and the broad streets with the magnificent buildings proved their long history. Walking on the streets, the traffic was busy, and the pedestrians were moving in a constant stream. The bustle was unlike any they had seen before. All kinds of things they had never seen before appeared here, even for Bailey Hongzhuang. So there was naturally some surprise and interest in her eyes. Wow, the imperial capital of the Qing dynasty is so prosperous. Xia Jiqing's eyes sparkled with excitement. and her head was constantly turning as she tried to see everything at once. It was simply too spectacular. Lingying College is located in the imperial capital of Qing Dynasty? Zhang Yinfeng was astounded. Lingying College was located at such a bustling place. It was far different from what she had expected. Although the city was lively, it was almost too lively. A college was for students to practice. Such a prosperous place could confuse students. Lingying College was originally located at Lingying City, which is at the border to the Qing Dynasty. It was only after the sponsoring of the royal family that they moved to the imperial capital. Today the princes and princess of the Qing Dynasty is studying at the Lingying College, and it has become the Royal College. Gong Xiaoqing said slowly. As they listened, they all understood. They had not expected the relationship between Lingying College and the Qing Dynasty to be so close. No wonder that Lingying College won twice in the college tournament. With the financial support of the Qing Dynasty, they have many more resources than others. Cui Haoyan could not help but say. Gong Xiaoqing waved his hand. They lost the original purpose from setting up a college. They serve the royal family now, and there is a lot of restrictions on the students. I heard that amongst the Lingying Academy students are many royals and nobles, and the requirement for these to enter is extremely low, while all the ones from poor upbringing has the harshest conditions to join. This is also why so many are going to Kanglin College now. Even if the resources are a bit lacking compared to Lingying College, they will not have to be ridiculed by others, nor will they have the same restrictions. Dongfang Yu spread his hands as he said, when Lingying College became servants of the Qing Dynasty, this situation was to be expected. Everyone is entitled to think as they wish, but for the principal of the Lingying College to force us to follow them like this, it is going too far. Bailey Hongzhuang was calm. She never felt that there was any right or wrong. It is just that you cannot force your thoughts onto others. Everyone nodded. This was also what was making them immensely annoyed. While everyone were discussing, Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba had appeared in front of everyone. The vice principal went to see a friend here in the Qing Dynasty. We will take you to the Lingying College first. Lu Huayan smiled and said. These students had never shamed them. Instead, they were their pride. There was also a smile on everyone else's face. They were very curious about the Lingying College. Under the leadership of Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba, they slowly moved towards Lingying College. On both sides of the street, many had their eyes turned towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. It was after all very eye-catching to see such a group of young and talented cultivators. I heard that the 3-college tournament is about to begin. This group of young experts must be cultivators from one of the other 2 colleges. Should be. I have seen many of Lingying College's students, but these people I have never seen before. I don't know where they are from, but these students are really beautiful. Even so, Lingying College is always the strongest. Lingying College has already won 2 consecutive tournaments. If they win again, that is 3 victories in a row. The people were laughing as they chatted. They had always had good feelings towards Lingying College. I can see that Lingying College has a good reputation in Qing Dynasty. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Lingying College has produced many outstanding geniuses. The Qing Dynasty is also highly respected, so naturally the reputation is very good, Lu Huayan explained. However, this is also good. Lingying College is now more and more eye-catching, and you have the chance to grasp an opportunity and turn it all around. Along with the words of Lu Huayan, the people looked at each other and seemed to understand that this was truly a feast of hongmen. They could easily imagine that now they had arrived at the Lingying College, they would become the subject of provocation and ridicule. The royal family had already been unrelenting, not to mention their college had already lost twice in a row. Almost no one were optimistic about their college this time. Under the leadership of Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba, Bailey Hongzhuang, and the others finally arrived at Lingying College. The white gate was big and magnificent. The gold-plated 4 characters shimmered in the sunlight. From this alone one could see the strong financial backing that the college had. This Lingying College is really different. After being sponsored by the Qing Dynasty, even the door is made so special, much more refined. Cui Haoyan smiled and said with emotion, by just looking at the gate, He could guess that everything within Lingying College had been made with a mountain of money. In contrast, Kanglin College was indeed much simpler. Everyone had different feelings as they observed Lingying College. However, just as they were about to enter the gate, a small guard stepped forward. "Who are you?" "Only students of this college is allowed to enter. We are from Kanglin College, and has come to participate in the college tournament," Fu Hongba explained. When the words fell, Fu Hongba was ready to enter the college, but the guard was still blocking the entrance with his body. "How do I know if you are from Kanglin College?" The guard looked at them with ridicule and sneered. Fu Hongba frowned slightly. "So how do we prove it?" "Take out your identity token," the guard said. "We will not let every cat and dog enter our Lingying College, just because they want. They have to see if they are worthy." Hearing the words of the guard, the expressions of everyone's faces turned ugly. The guard was clearly saying that they were not worth enough to enter Lingying College. Fu Hongba and Lu Huayin looked at one another, and although they saw the anger in the other's eyes, they did not flare up. "Identity token? What kind of identity token?" Lu Huayin's eyes flashed with doubt. Before, no one had said anything about needing identity tokens to enter the college. Last time they came to the college there was not anything like this either. Did the Lingying College change these past 3 years? "Proof that can determine that you are from Kanglin College." The guard smirked as he had no intention of giving Lu Huayin an answer. "Then inform your principal. He knows us, and will be able to prove our identity." Fu Hongba endured the anger as he said. The guard wanted to mock them further, and looked at Fu Hongba. "Just by you. What makes you think you have the right to see our principal? He is always very busy. If everyone asked to see him, he would have no time for anything else. Get out if you can't find a proof of identity. Don't stand here and block the door. It will damage the reputation of the Lingying College." Seeing his mocking expression, he successfully ignited Dongfang Yu and the other's anger. Even a guard is so arrogant. It is simply unbearable. Fu Hongba also felt anger and wanted to end it right away. However, just as Fu Hongba was about to actually do something, a mocking voice was heard behind them. "Hey!" Someone was actually stopped outside the college. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others turned around only to see Xue Haolang and the others led by 2 mentors. The person who spoke was wearing a black robe and was a mentor of Beihai College Duan Yinggu. Fu Hongba's eyes were gloomy. Duan Yinggu had always been narrow-minded, so the ridicule was within his expectation. When they saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had been stopped, the expressions on Xue Haolang and the others turned smug. The previous suffocation, now they could return it, since they had arrived at Lingying College. Duan Yinggu smiled and looked at Fu Hongba, but he did not care too much, and led the students behind him inside. However, the guards who had been stopping them before allowed the Beihai students entry. He even had a smile on his face, as he looked at Duan Yinggu and Emo Xinghai. "Mentor Duan, Mentor Emo, you have arrived." Duan Yinggu smiled provocatively at Fu Hongba and Lu Huayin as he said, "The location for our Beihai students should have been prepared, right?" "Of course it has." The guard nodded his head. "Please enter." Seeing this, Xia Jiqing could not help but ask, why can they be allowed inside without a proof of identity? Duan Yinggu and the others stopped because of her words and gave Fu Hongba a sly look. It was rare to see such a joke. Naturally, they had to enjoy it. "Can your identity be compared to ours?" Lu Jingqi asked with a smug smile. "Our mentors are famous. Who knows about some country bumpkins who came from God knows where?" When they heard these words, the lips of Xue Haolang raised. They had eaten a loss at Bailey Hongzhuang's hands, now they must let her feel their superiority. "This kind of people, we don't know where they come from. Guard, you have to check it." Lu Jinglin almost screamed as she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with eyes filled with resentment. This Bailey Hongzhuang was treated specially by Xiao Lanmei. This was hurting her greatly. And because of the injury Bailey Hongzhuang had given her, she had suffered a lot of pain. The 2 mentors were harsh, and although she was injured they would not slow down, causing her to be in severe pain. This was all Bailey Hongzhuang's fault. Now, under the introduction of the mentors, they have a slight understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, and know her name is Bailey Hongzhuang. Feeling the resentful gaze of Lu Jinglin, Bailey Hanswang is calm, and the resentment has no influence on her. The guard nodded his head and said, I will check their identity. Mo Xinghai smiled. Everyone must be tired after moving so long. Let us go to see the accommodation prepared by Lingying College, and take a rest. Yes, Su Haolang and the others opened their mouth and laughed excitedly. They thought that the people of Kanglan College were mad over being stopped outside the gate. As the cultivators of Beihai College disappeared from the vision of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, everyone's eyes fell on the guard again. Mentor, why bother with him? Let's just go inside. Cui Haoyan could not help but say. This kind of annoying person who was deliberately making a fool of them, and refusing to say anything straight. In fact, they can feel that this is the attitude of Lingying College. How can a guard make such trouble on his own? Cui Haoyan is right, we can just enter, the guard can't stop us. Bai Junyu agreed. They were here to represent the Kanglan College, but were stopped by a mere guard. This was an embarrassing matter. Listening to the words, the expression on the guard's face changed slightly, but he soon said, You want to force your way into the Lingying College? Do you think I dare get the royal guard to drive you away? Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba looked at one another, not sure about what to do. This reflected exactly what they had expected. If they forced their way in, they would get a bad reputation, but staying here would be humiliating. Once the royal guard appeared, they would be arrested. Then this could be a big trouble. Even if they knew that this was the idea of the Lingying College, they were at a loss for what to do. At this point in time, Bailey Hongzhuang spoke up. Are you sure you want us to be locked outside? The guard looked at her and said, Of course you can't prove your identity. How can I let you inside? Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with doubt. Right now they had no solution. Maybe she could fix it? We were invited by Lingying College to participate in the tournament. You dare to stop us from entering. Are you sure you can afford to do this? The momentum of Bailey Hongzhuang was unstoppable. Even if Lingying College were going against them, this was too much. If they did not show their attitude, then they would simply be despised. Previously someone told him, it was best to make things difficult for the Kanglan students and make them lose face. However, when the woman said this, he did not know how to answer. After a moment of hesitation, the guard said, As a guard, I will stop anyone unknown. What responsibility do I have to take? After speaking, the guard showed a smugness in his eyes. He would not be scared. If this student of Kanglan College wanted to be too much, he would make her forced to submit. Just as the guy wanted to see Bailey Hongzhuang turn pale, he saw her sneer. Since Lingying College does not welcome us, we are leaving. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba when she said this. Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba also nodded their heads. They could not continue this deadlock. It was better to just leave. As for the follow-up, they would find a way to handle it later. When the guard saw that the Kanglan College's people were about to leave, the expression on his face finally flashed with some color. He was only ordered to cause some problems for the students. If they really left, he would not be able to handle the aftermath. Xia Jiqing and the others did not hesitate, and left together with the two mentors. The attitude of Lingying College was simply too disgusting. Wait! Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others get ready to leave, the guard could not help but call out. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped her steps and looked at the guard, sarcasm heavy in her eyes. What now? We are not even at the door of Lingying College. If something is broken, don't come at us for it. Hearing the sarcasm in her voice, the guard's face turned red. His expression was ugly before he raised his chin in arrogance once more. Wait a moment. If anyone can prove your identity, I will let you in. When he spoke, everyone were silent. It seemed that he still wanted them to show gratitude to him. No need. Bailey Hongzhuang lifted her hand slightly. We can see the hospitality of the Lingying College clearly. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Xia Jiqing and the others and said, Let us leave this place. They are too arrogant. Next, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked away with steady steps. This kind of place, if they continued to stay, they'd just be ridiculed. Why would they do that? Hey, you guys. The guard looked at the back of Bailey Hongzhuang and her group, and his face became ugly. He did not expect that the situation would become like this. As a matter of fact, These people from Kanglin College should not try to leave. How come the situation was like this? Thinking about it, the guard rushed into the college with an anxious expression on his face. He had to tell the higher-ups. Soon after the people from Beihai College had entered Lingying College, the two mentors of Lingying College came to greet them. Mentor Duan, Mentor Mo, we haven't seen you for a long time. One of the instructors of the school, Wan Yulong, had a happy smile on his face. Seeing Wan Yuang, Duan Yinggu and Mo Xinghai's facts also reveal a smile. Hello Mentor Wan. We haven't seen you for a while. It seems your strength has increased. Wan Yulong smiled lightly and seemed modest, though he said with heartfelt pride, a bit stronger. You have arrived. I don't know when the students from Kanglin College will arrive? The mentor next to Wan Yulong asked. Hearing this, Duan Yinggu and Mo Xinghai could not help but laugh. They are being blocked at the door. The guard wanted them to prove their identity. I am afraid they won't be able to enter for a while. Duan Yinggu chuckled. The good drama has already begun. Wan Yulong chuckled. I would have liked to see this good show for myself. Mo Xinghai nodded his head. It was indeed a good show. Lu Huayin and Fu Hongba had faces as gloomy as water, but they had not attacked. There is nothing in their Kanglin College. They can't turn it around even if they got some luck in the ruins. Yu Yulong's face was filled with disdain. This kind of collage has no right to enter. The mentors did a good job. They should be unable to verify their identity. The four mentors smiled at each other. There was some ridicule in the smiles. Today is really fun. Isn't that Bailey Hongzhuang so good normally? Isn't it just being humiliated as well? Lu Jinglin's eyes flashed with success, but her eyes were on Xiao Lanmei. She wanted to know what his attitude towards all this was. Lu Jingqi was also very excited. Today I am really too happy. They deserved it. Now let's see them getting a slap in the face. She was disgusted with Xia Jiqing. Now she wanted to see her being taken down a notch. I don't know how long the students will have to wait outside, haha. Xue Haoling also felt that he was letting go of a bad breath. Although he had no evidence, he knew they had taken his Qingquan bag. It was impossible for ordinary people to do so. Xiao Lanmei was indifferent, as if it had nothing to do with him. Lu Jinglin also let go of her impression after seeing Xiao Lanmei like this. It did not seem like H treated her that special after all. However, just as the four mentors were all very happy, the guard came rushing over. Mentor Wan, Mentor Jiang. Seeing the guard, Wan Yulong also felt he had done a good job and smiled. You did a good job today, it earned face for our academy. He was the first person to let them know their lowly identity when they came to the academy. Mo Xinghai and Duan Yingwu's faces were also filled with smiles. This trick is really making them happy. However, the guard who had run all the way had an anxious expression and gasped with a big breath. They. Wan Yulong patted the guard's shoulder. What about them? Say it slowly. They left. At this moment the guard said it, and Wan Yulong was shocked, frowning slightly. Who left? The team from Kanglin College, they are gone. The guard's face was very ugly. He did not think that they would leave just like this. If they don't participate in the tournament, it would be horrible if he got blamed by the principal. Wan Yulong's face changed. What? How is this possible? What did you do? Mentor. I asked them of proof of identity just as you instructed me to. And instead of arguing, they just left like this. The guard looked bitter. Mentor, I did everything as you instructed me to. You have to save me. The reason he dared to be so arrogant was because he was certain the team would not leave, only look for a way to enter the college. He had never expected they would do the complete opposite. It made him dumbfounded. To become a guard of Lingying College was a good job. He had used a lot of personal relationships and was able to finally become one. He couldn't lose this job because of this. Not only Wan Yulong, but also Jiang Lihui's faces suddenly changed. No matter how much they looked down on the college, now that they had left, they could not handle the consequences. How could they go? Wan Yulong was unable to believe it. Won't they participate in the college tournament? According to what he had thought, they would not leave. Duan Yinggu and Mo Xinghai were also shocked at this point. They had made the college tournament earlier, for the sake of dealing with the Kanglin College. As long as the Kanglan College failed this time again, the college would never be able to lift its head in the future. Now that the team from Kanglan College had left, if they didn't participate in the college tournament, then hadn't they lost greatly this time? The most important thing was that it was all caused by Lingyin College who blocked their entry. So even if they choose to drop out from the tournament, then it was not their fault. This could be very troublesome. Hongzhuang, we left just like this. Do we not participate in the tournament? Xia Jiqing could not help but ask the things that worried her. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. Of course we will participate in the tournament. So what do we do now? Xia Jiqing asked in a confused way. We just need to find an inn here in the imperial capital. Everything was arranged by the Lingyin College, and they will definitely not be willing to see us leave like this. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a confident smile. In her opinion, the trick used by Lingyin College is simply too stupid, rejecting them for the sake of ridiculing them. But when they left, their principal would have to come back and apologize to them. Which college would lose the most face by this? Lu Huayan and Fu Hongba completely understood after listening to the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, and their hearts were filled with admiration towards her. Bailey Hongzhuang was really smart. Since they will not let us leave, they will come and ask us to come back. We will just find an inn and live in, while experiencing Qing Dynasty's imperial capital the next 2 days. Lu Huayan smiled. This method of Bailey Hongzhuang, not only did it save their face and save them from humiliation, it also made the Lingyin College lose face. It was definitely the best solution. Listening to the two mentors, Bai Junyu and the others understood what was happening, and their faces showed a smile. Haha, after we said we were leaving, the guard's face instantly turned into the color of a pig's liver. Xia Jiqing smiled happily. At this moment, since she had understood all the ins and outs of the matter, she did not have the same tension as she had in the beginning. Now that she thought of the appearance of the guard, she could only feel that it was all ridiculous. The guy was annoying, and we left. He must be very unhappy now. As practitioners of Kanglan College they have always been respected, but here they were being humiliated. Dongfangyu chuckled. Even if the guard was ordered to do this, when this is informed to the Lingyin College principal, he will not have a good time. As Dongfangyu said this, the others gave him a thumbs up. This was simply the best. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others randomly found an inn in the imperial capital. Even though they had traveled for a long time, they were only a little tired. Instead they were interested in the imperial capital of the Qing dynasty. The two mentors have already gone to meet the vice president. Why don't we go out and experience the imperial capital at night? Cui Haoyan's face was full of smiles that resembled the spring breeze. Although the results of the college tournament was not optimistic, at least he was in a good mood. Hearing the question, the faces of the others were also showing a color of interest. When they first came to Qing Dynasty, they should enjoy themselves. Since we are already here, let's go shopping. Isn't it a waste if we don't? Dongfangyu grinned. Let's set out. After leaving the inn, everyone went to a restaurant to eat. After asking around, they knew a bit about the Qing Dynasty. The first tower had the most delicious meals. The group did not hesitate to head towards the first tower. Every region had different kinds of specialties. They had finally arrived at the Qing Dynasty, and their hearts were filled with curiosity. They naturally had to try out the most delicious food from this area. Standing in front of the door to the first tower, everyone had a bit of surprise in their eyes. On the golden nameplate, the 3 characters of the first tower was written, as if the calligraphy was dragons and phoenixes dancing together. The first tower was like its name, the best restaurant in the Qing Dynasty. Bailey Hongzhuang had just entered the restaurant when she saw a smiling waiter come towards her. Several guests. There is no space on the second floor. All rooms are rented out. I do not know whether or not you wish to eat in the lobby. Everyone nodded their heads. Sitting in the lobby was also a good decision, because people were usually talking well, and they could listen in on important conversations. When they arrived they knew nothing of the Qing Dynasty. Maybe they could hear some favorable news. Under the guidance of the waiter, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were seated in the center of the lobby. They had to admit that the business in the first tower was extremely busy. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others intentionally entered the most popular restaurant. Even so, they had not expected it to be this filled. Dear guests, I assume this is your first time coming to the first tower. Do you need me to recommend our signature dishes for you? The waiter was obviously very friendly, and he took the lead in introducing them after seeing the approving appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing the waiter's enthusiasm, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also let much more comfortable with this waiter. Then we will trouble you with finding some dishes for us from the first tower. We are 8 people, please decide for us. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. With pleasure, the waiter nodded. Please wait for a moment, and the wine will be delivered. After the waiter left, Zhang Yunfeng smiled and said, although I don't know much about this first tower, the waiter is very clever and friendly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. In my opinion, the owner must have spent a lot of time on training the waiter. I also think that this restaurant is elegantly furnished. There is no lack of luxury, and everything you could ever want from a restaurant can be found here. Dongfang Yu sighed. However, while they were looking at the layout of the first tower, they did not know that someone on the second floor were looking at them. Second brother, do you see those 2 great beauties in the lobby? In the middle, a teenager around the age of 17 was saying with excitement as his eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Third brother, although the beauties of the Qing dynasty are quite a few, can they really be considered great beauties? Opposite the teenager, a man around 19, wearing a green robe, was looking at him with a bored expression. Nangong Yujin's face had an expression of excitement. Second brother, I am telling the truth. If you don't believe me, then take a look. Seeing that Nangong Yujin was so serious, Nangong Xiujia looked towards the lobby of the first tower. Just with this one look, he could no longer believe his eyes. When did 2 such beautiful women come to our imperial capital? I did not get any news about this. Nangong Xiujia's eyes sparkled with a dazzling light as he coveted the woman below. So beautiful it was simply otherworldly. Second brother, that woman with the hibiscus-colored dress is so warm and affectionate. The tenderness is like water. It is truly the best among the best. Nangong Yujin's word revealed a strong interest. This woman was so delicate and beautiful, she was out of this realm. It was really the first time they saw a woman like this. Nangong Xiujia looked at the hibiscus-dressed woman, but then his eyes fell on the white-dressed woman. He could not help but think that she was the real beauty of the 2. Both appearance and temperament were one of a kind, especially since the smile had completely caught his heart. This kind of rare beauty, he would never let her go. That was not the style of Nangong Xiujia. I think the white-dressed woman is more moving. Nangong Xiujia rubbed his chin as he said. His eyes sparkled with excitement. He had not been this excited for a long time already. Listening to the words of Nangong Xiujia, Nangong Yun also smiled. It seemed as if his second brother understood his thoughts. In this case, isn't that great for the 2 of us? Nangong Xiujia nodded. It is indeed good. After waiting for some time, the wine they had ordered arrived. Looking at the delicious wine in front of them, everyone were eager to get their dishes. This wine has a pretty color. The color and the fragrance is both superior. I just don't know how it tastes. Let's try it. Xia Jiqing smiled. Everyone also tasted a bit. After tasting it, they could not help but sigh. Sure enough, this was the fifth tower. The taste was really amazing. This taste is really good. Bai Junyu smiled. The wine from this big dynasty was truly special. At the same time, the conversation from all the others entered their ears. I hear that one of the 3 colleges were deliberately made fun of at the entrance of Lingying College. Later the team left Lingying College directly. Did you know of this? Left. I didn't hear about this. But if they really left, can the college tournament continue? I don't understand why Lingying College would do this. It's a bit too much. The man shook his head. Lingying College was always very important in their minds. The status was very high. But this kind of move was simply shooting themselves in the foot. I don't know, but the college has lost twice in succession. It is normal to be ridiculed. The strength of Lingying College is the highest. Bai Junyu changed his mind. Originally I wanted to see the strength of Lingying College, but now I have no interest in them at all. He had also respected the achievements of Lingying College over the years, and was humble to learn from them. Although Lingying College couldn't judge right from wrong, and relied on the Qing dynasty, at least Lingying College had some very good cultivators. However, when they showed this kind of attitude today, it proved that they had already fallen. Lingying College has been attached to the royal family of the Qing dynasty for quite some years now. It is normal that it is filled with high-ranked people, Gong Xiaoqing slowly said, and there was a bit of disdain in his eyes. A talented gentleman was obviously well-liked, but a person with strength, but a narrow mind was simply just a villain. It was impossible for them to admire the strength of Lingying College now. While they were eating, they listened to the laughter and talks of the people around them. All kinds of news were being discussed, but most of it was useless for them. At the same time, Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin slowly descended from the second floor. Their heads were held high, and they walked with elegance. A folding fan was held in the hands, showing that they were graceful. Hey, isn't that the second Prince Nangong Xiujia, and the third Prince Nangong Yujin? This first tower restaurant is really excellent. I heard that the royal family wanted to recruit their chef. They came to the first tower to recruit the chef, but why would the chef not go with them? Instead, the princes often come here to eat instead. Especially the second and third prince are regular customers. Where are the two princes going? They are heading towards the lobby. Do they know someone who is sitting in the lobby today? The eyes of everyone turned somewhat strange. If it was someone that knew the two princes, then their identities could not be normal. How could they eat in the lobby? Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin had a smug and confident smile on their faces. As princes, they were the center of attention no matter where they went. With the words of these people, things were likely to go their way now. Listening to the conversation of the other customers, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but look at Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin. Not for any other reason, but because Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin were both students of Lingying College. The strength is outstanding, and they would likely be their opponents in the tournament. After a slight glance, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to eating their food. After all, they would not be able to really understand these people from just a glance. After all, they just wanted to be able to recognize them. As for the college tournament, it was impossible to do anything to them, as they were from Kanglin College. The president would not allow it since they still needed the college to accept the tournament. However, when they turned around, Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin had stopped at their table. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at one another. It was quite difficult to guess what was going on. The news about their departure earlier, could it be that they already knew of their identities? However, the words that Nangong Xiujia said made them understand that it was purely them who thought that they knew their identity. Pretty girls, why not come with us to the palace to have a deep conversation? Nangong Xiujia's voice was warm, and his lips were curled into a faint smile. The expression was one of a polite young master. However, when his voice fell, his eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang, and it was as if Gong Xiaoqing and the other men were not present at all. This made all of them understand. Nangong Xiujia was not polite, he was being arrogant. What if we don't want to? Xia Jiqing's voice was cold. The attitude of Nangong Xiujia was very unpleasant. Gong Xiaoqing and the other three men looked at one another. They instantly understood that they were looking for Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Qingyue. Thinking about it, Gong Xiaoqing and the others were somewhat helpless. They belonged to the special enrollment class of the Kanglin College, but these two women were the most attractive ones they had ever seen. At first, Lu Qingyue was hailed as the #1 beauty of the academy, attracting all male cultivators to pursue her. Many even joined the academy for the sake of seeing her. Since Bailey Hongzhuang arrived, the situation had not become better. In fact, it had just become more intense. Because now half the cultivators were after Lu Qingyue, and the other half were after Bailey Hongzhuang. Even though these guys had been with Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Qingyue for a long time, they still found them pleasing to the eye. The two of them were naturally the most eye-catching, and now the two princes had obviously come for the sake of them. Nangong Xiujia heard the coldness in Xia Jiqing's words, and his eyes changed slightly. He had lived for many years, and had found many girls throughout the years, but he had never been treated like this by a woman before. On the contrary, many women wanted to marry him. However, he wasn't interested. The smile on Nangong Xiujia's face did not change because of Xia Jiqing's words. Instead he said, I am Nangong Xiujia, the second prince of the Qing dynasty. I am very happy to have met you. At the same time, Nangong Yujin also went to the side of Lu Qingyue. I have seen many beautiful, peerless and independent people in my life, both in this city but also the rest of the country, but there are no women as beautiful as you. Nangong Yujin did not hide his praise. A woman such as this one. It was really the first time he ever saw one. Lu Qingyue was unaccustomed to such a scene. Although many admired her, no one had ever been so direct before. She was unsure of how to respond for quite a while. Looking at the flustered face of Lu Qingyue, Nangong Yujin was even happier. This beautiful woman was so pure. Just a few sentences, and she was already shy. Nangong Xiujia looked at his younger brother. The eloquence of his third brother was truly magnificent. Just a few words, and he had already grasped the heart of the lady. The people in the restaurant instantly understood what was going on, and I could not help but look curiously at them. I just knew the two princes wouldn't have known someone from the lobby. It turned out that it was just a drunkard who was guessing before. I noticed that the two girls looked stunning, but with their temperament they cannot be ordinary people. It doesn't matter who they are. Now the two princes has come out, they are going to be taken away. The people shook their heads. They felt that these women would definitely follow the princes. Who wouldn't want to marry a prince? However, although the strength of these two princes was very outstanding, they were lustful people. Almost every outstanding woman within the capital had been picked up by them. These two women were truly pitiful. Girl, I don't know what to call you. Nangong Xiujia's eyes landed on the body of Bailey Hongzhuang. Before looking from far away, he had felt that she was very outstanding. Now that he was next to her, he found her bright and moving. The exquisite and beautiful face had not the slightest imperfection, especially the temperament and style, the faint scent she carried. She was not comparable to any other woman. Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly stood up, although she did not care too much about the purpose of Nangong Xiujia, but the other party was still the Qing dynasty's second prince. Since they had come to the Qing dynasty, naturally they had to give him some face. Bailey Hongzhuang. Nangong Xiujia whispered her name, before his lips widened slightly. What a good name! Not only is the meaning wonderful, the sound is also pleasing to the ear. Thank you for your praise, second prince, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. However, when the smile of Bailey Hongzhuang fell into the eyes of Nangong Xiujia, he became obsessed. She was already the most beautiful, but the smile made it even more so. On the other hand, Dongfang Yu and the others looked at each other. It seemed that this had nothing to do with them at all. This Qing dynasty is a big country. Although the prince's abilities are great, they are still just greedy for beautiful women. Bai Junyu frowned. The other party's actions clearly showed that they did not put them in their eyes. The actions was truly disgusting. Gong Xiaoqing. Lu Qingyue is obviously not good at dealing with this situation. Do you want to help her? Dongfang Yu looked at Gong Xiaoqing. He found it really unbearable. Everyone knew that Lu Qingyue's heart was set on Gong Xiaoqing. How could he allow for these brothers to steal her away? Gong Xiaoqing's gaze was cold. Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin were also uninviting. However, the gaze of Gong Xiaoqing was on Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Qingyue were two very different women. Bailey Hongzhuang was not as delicate as Lu Qingyue. On the contrary, she was independent, strong, unique and unafraid. He believed that she would not let them off easily. There are many good delicacies and wines in our palace. I don't know if you would be interested? Nangong Xiujia's eyes were filled with a lusting light. If he managed to get Bailey Hongzhuang in his hands, he was sure that many people would be full of envy towards him. Seeing that Nangong Xiujia did not even try to hide his intentions with his speech, the disgust in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes deepened. She really had no good feeling towards the royal family. Whether it was the surname Xianyuan or Nangong, all of them were disgusting. Next, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into an enchanting smile. Her pair of phoenix eyes were sparkling like the spring river. Nangong Xiujia's heart trembled. Such a beautiful person. Every smile was simply too fascinating. However, the words of Bailey Hongzhuang was something he had not expected. Thank you, second prince, but I have already eaten. The simple and honest words were impossible to refute. The dishes on the table were almost all eaten and Bailey Hongzhuang was likely already full. However, everyone knew it was just an excuse. How could she answer so seriously? Nangong Xiujia's heart was puzzled. Did this beauty not understand what he meant? Bailey girl, come with me back to my palace. Taking a walk in my garden after a meal is also good. Nangong Xiujia asked again. Oh, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes widened slightly. If you ask me, young master, then I would have to disagree. I am already married. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes slightly. She was innocent and pure. This guy directly tore faces with them. But when someone was acting like this, it was better to play tricks on them. She would like to see how he could continue to reply. When the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang fell, the expression on Nangong Xiujia's face instantly became ugly to look at. How was this possible? He had never even once considered the possibility that Bailey Hongzhuang was already married. However, after hearing the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, he realized that it was indeed possible. Haha. Bai Junyu could not help but laugh slightly. He had to truly hold back to not laugh out loud. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly domineering as always. Just a single sentence, and she had already managed to make Nangong Xiujia's face turn into nothingness. In the eyes of Dongfang Yu's eyes, there was also a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang was simply too smart a woman. If you changed it to other women, then they would be at a loss for what to do when faced with such attention. It was exactly because of this that so many people loved her. She was so eccentric, and it was impossible to dislike her. Bailey girl, you are married? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head seriously. Not only am I married, there is also a child. There were children. Nangong Xiujia's eyes widened as another bomb exploded in his mind, making him completely dumbfounded. This woman, one couldn't see any traces of having given birth at all. However, it was true that ordinary women were married around this age. Haha. Cui Haoyan couldn't help but hold his hand over his mouth. Bailey Hongzhuang was simply too amazing. He was feeling pain holding back his smile. He had always thought that Nangong Xiujia was very annoying. Obviously now he felt some sympathy towards him. Now he was completely being played by Bailey Hongzhuang, as if he was a monkey. Xia Jiqing and Zhang Yunfeng both couldn't help but feel the corners of their lips twitch. Bailey Hongzhuang was simply invincible. This solution was the best she could come up with. Little Black and Little White couldn't help but laugh out loud. The owner was really a master. The ability to trash talk was seriously stronger than anyone else. Nangong Yujin was a bit dumbfounded after seeing this scene. He did not expect the brothers' luck to be so bad. This was truly a bit funny. Lu girl, you shouldn't have been married yet, right? Nangong Yujin could not help but worry. His luck shouldn't be as bad as his second brother's, right? Lu Qingyue was slightly stunned, and her eyes could not help but fall on Gong Xiaoqing's body. She very seldom lied, and it was impossible to lie about being married. However, the reaction of Lu Qingyue was seen by Nangong Yujin, and he understood everything. I want to invite Lu girl to go for a tour. I don't know what you think. However, the next moment, Gong Xiaoqing stood up and said, Qingyue is my fiancée. She is not going with the third prince. Accompanied by Gong Xiaoqing's voice, Lu Qingyue's eyes showed strong joy. Although she knew that he was just saying this to help her, she was immensely happy that he would stand up and save her from this situation. This was enough. She was happy. The people within the restaurant were also stunned. They had never expected that the story would take such an unexpected twist from what they had imagined. The woman was so young. She was already married and even had children. No one had thought of that. The other woman had a fiancé? Nangong Yujin's eyes could not help but fall onto Gong Xiaoqing's body. You said she is your fiancé? Your fiancé? With the voice of Nangong Yujin falling, the look of everyone changed again. They did not expect that the woman's fiancé would be here. Nangong Yujin even said such a thing. That was a bit too much. The third prince has always been overbearing. It is not first time that he is robbing women. It's just that today he is going too far. In the past, Even if the third prince used some means to rob women of other men, he would at least not directly grab them in front of a crowd. As such, the third prince was unable to deal with them. Everyone couldn't help but feel sorry for Gong Xiaoqing. It was a blessing for this man that he had a beautiful fiancée like this. However, they had not expected their romance to be ruined today. Third prince, Gong Xiaoqing is indeed my fiancée. Lu Qingyue stressed. Nangong Yujin's smile was a bit embarrassed as he said, "Since it is just a fiancé, you are still yet to be married. This prince has seen you, and you are going to come with me." The voice just fell and Dongfang Yu and all the others stood up. I did not expect this. The princes of the Qing dynasty, are this unreasonable? We are also learning something new today. Hey, you dare to comment on my country and the royal family, do you not want to live? Nangong Yujin was making an obvious threat. At this time Nangong Xiujia's eyes landed on the body of Bailey Hongzhuang. He always felt that she was not saying the truth. He was always hanging around women, and he had a certain understanding of them. No matter from what angle he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, she had not given birth to a child. Maybe, could she be simply lying to him? Bailey girl, you will also come back with me. If you really have a man and child, I will send for them later. Nangong Xiujia slowly said, his eyes were cold. If this was really fake, wasn't he losing face? It was better to bring her back first, and then find out later. The second prince means to kidnap us women? Bailey Hongzhuang was annoyed, and a bit of coldness was in her eyes. Even if she knew that Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin were not good people, she did not think they were this bad. Gong Xiaoqing and the others also took out their weapons. Since there was no way to solve it with words, they could only fight it out. Letting Nangong Xiujia taking away Bailey Hongzhuang, that was impossible. I have seen shameless people, but I have never seen shameless people who does not want face. Your face is really thick. Xia Jiqing was angry, and she had been furious for a long time. These scums should have died long ago. This was really not giving any face to Nangong Xiujia. Their expression turned immensely difficult to look at. The look of the people listening changed. Although they could see that what Xia Jiqing had said was rather extreme, they did feel that what she said was appropriate. When they saw that Bailey Hongzhuang got ready to move, Nangong Yujin's expression changed and he sternly said, "You dare to touch us? I guess you want to have the whole Imperial Guards as your opponent? A coward like you, I am afraid, has no strength at all, only able to rely on the so-called Imperial Guards to save you." Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer caring about ridiculing them. They had already torn faces, so there was nothing to fear. When Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin heard this, their expressions turned gloomy. The words of Bailey Hongzhuang were truly too much. Even just daring to say such a thing was unforgivable. This prince will let you know how amazing this prince is. Nangong Xiujia slapped on the wine table, and the wine table directly split into two pieces of broken wood. It was impossible to retreat even a step. It was just that Nangong Xiujia's move did not achieve the result he wanted. As if this simple track can scare us. The irony in Bailey Hongzhuang's words were filled with mockery. This kind of guy who didn't know about heavens above heavens. After seeing the action, the waiter's face changed, and he quickly stepped forward. Second and third prince, you know the rule on our first tower. You cannot act like this in our restaurant. Hearing this, Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin looked at each other before they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Go out." However, Bailey Hongzhuang directly sat down on a chair. "I am not going out. What can you do about it?" Xia Jiqing and the others were not caring about the two princes at all. It was already a disaster. There was no reason to hold back. Since they had offended them, they could just offend them completely. Anyway, even if they did not insult them now, they would become enemies at the college tournament. Nangong Xiujia was in a hurry, but he had never seen such an arrogant woman before. This was the first time in their entire lives. "Do you know what you are doing?" Nangong Xiujia's voice was full of threats. "In the Qing dynasty, if you dare to offend me, I can promise that you can't live to exit the imperial capital." "I am so scared." Bailey Hongzhuang patted her chest, her face not the slightest bit scared. She was clearly ironic. Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin couldn't bear it any longer. If they couldn't attack, Where would the prestige of the two of them be in the future? Gong Xiaoqing and the others were somewhat worried. The royal family had always been a fearsome force, not to mention that the Qing dynasty was a big country. If Nangong Xiujie really used the power of the royal family to deal with them, then the situation would be worse. Master, you are mocking them like this. Are you not afraid of the power of the royal family? Although the imperial guard is weaklings, if the real royal powerhouses comes out, then it can be troublesome. The eyes of Little Black were a little worried. Although they would be able to leave safely, there were too many teammates, and bringing all of them to have a safe exit was not easy. There was no fear in the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang. It is natural that they are from the royal family, but before that they are from the Lingying College. If they use the royal power to deal with the contradiction between colleges, no one will want to work with them in the future. Little Black and Little White realized that she was correct. As a result, this situation was actually not that bad. If you fall into my hands, I will let you suffer greatly. Nangong Xiujie was gnashing his teeth. The move of Bailey Hongzhuang was simply too much. The atmosphere was tense and everyone watching were filled with excitement. They all knew that it was impossible to do anything on the first tower without being banned. Even the princes dared not cause problems, so they were absolutely safe in this lobby. This kind of good show is not seen often, so this time's meal was definitely worth it. To each other, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was very cold. Without the layer of identity, Nangong Xiujie was nothing but trash. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, he would not hesitate to return the attack. Nangong Xiujie was furious, but as long as they were sitting within the first tower, he was completely helpless. Noticing the helplessness of Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin, Bailey Hongzhuang was also puzzled. Even the two princes dared not break the rules of the first tower. It seemed that the first tower's background was rather amazing. However, under the tense atmosphere, a voice suddenly caught the attention of everyone. While the sound of a baby crying sounded together with a black-robed man who came over, carrying a child. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes lit up in happiness. "Wifey, why haven't you come back yet? You need to take care of your child and your husband." Xia Jiqing and the others were instantly stunned. Who is this guy? They had never seen him before. Bailey Hongzhuang was also stunned after seeing the black-robe figure. What kind of ghost was he? How could Mo Yunjue appear here? The most important thing was that Mo Yunjue was actually cooperating with her. Although she had not had much contact with Mo Yunjue, she knew that he was not a person who'd help others. But now he was helping her with her problems? Awesome, this is great. Little Black shook his head as it said. This Mo Yunjue was absolutely perfect. Only God knows where he managed to get a kid from. Master, this person is really difficult to see through. Little White was speechless. The situation is already a mess, but Mo Yunjue dared to enter and mess the situation up once more. The courage he had was not small. Dongfang Yu and the others looked at each other. They did not know where this black-robed man came from. They didn't know any people within this country. The other people within the restaurant were also stunned. Their eyes widened in incredulity. They had previously suspected that the words Bailey Hongzhuang had said were false. They did not expect that reality proved them wrong. In this case, Nangong Xiujie wanted to take away a child's mother. This was simply too much for everyone. However, the most horrified people present was the waiter and the manager. Since when had their boss gotten a child? They clearly had never heard about this. After Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin saw Mo Yunjue, their expressions also changed slightly. They had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was Mo Yunjue's woman. This situation was getting bad. Mo Gongzi, Nangong Xiujie's face had a smile on his face and a faint gleam in his eyes. Bailey girl is your wife. Mo Yunjue smiled and nodded. Looking at this situation, it seems that there is some sort of conflict between the two princes and my lady. My lady has always had a child's temper. I hope the two princes will be able to let go of the matter. When the voice fell, Mo Yunjue directly handed the child in his hands to Bailey Hongzhuang, making it look so familiar for all who watched. Chapter 686. Mo Yunjue is helping them out of trouble in addition to Bewitching. When did Bailey Hongzhuang find another husband? Xia Jiqing's heart was filled with questions. This wasn't right. She had never even heard of the existence of this young master. When he listened to Mo Yunjue's affirmative answer, Nangong Xiujia's face was ugly to behold. It was no wonder that Bailey Hongzhuang was so arrogant before. She was holding the thigh of Mo Yunjue. Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin looked at one another. It seemed that they couldn't get what they wanted today. Mo Yunjue was a special existence in their eyes, just as the first tower was a special existence within the imperial capital. Originally they thought that Mo Yunjue was just an ordinary businessman. When they wanted to bring the chef from the first tower into the palace to cook in their kitchens, the chef refused, and they wanted to kill the chef. They would never have thought that their father would save the chef, and reprimanded them, saying that no matter what, it was best to not provoke Mo Yunjue. At the beginning it was obvious that the emperor felt that Mo Yunjue's identity was a taboo, and they felt shocked. Their father was so strong. The other party was just a restaurant owner, but even their father feared him, showing that he was not a simple character. Neither Nangong Xiujia nor Nangong Yujin were stupid people. Since then they had been very polite towards Mo Yunjue, and never gotten into any contradictions with him. Since it is Mrs. Mo, naturally we will not mind it, Nangong Xiujia slowly said. Watching how the change in the attitude of Nangong Xiujia happened so fast, the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others showed confusion. This change was simply too fast. What is the identity of this Mo Gongzi? These two princes are so scared of him. The eyes of Dongfang Yu blinked with uneasiness. They wouldn't have gone from the ashes and into the fire, would they? After all, this Mo Gongzi would not help her for no reason. Gong Xiaoqing had a heavy expression on his face. When he faced the two princes he still didn't worry so much, but the sudden appearance of Mo Yunjue was too hard to understand. I don't know, let us wait and see. I accidentally broke a table, let the waiter put it on my tab, Nangong Xiujia said. Yujin and myself have some things we need to do, so we must take our leave. The table wasn't stable enough. The second prince just helped me find a faulty table. How could I ask the second prince to pay for it? Mo Yunjue's lips were raised in a slight smile, but there was no chance in the emotions deep within his eyes. Well then, we will meet the next time the two princes come to the first tower. I hope that you will come often. Seeing that Mo Yunjue gave them a chance to step back, their expressions also softened. That's good. Thank you, Mo Gongzi. As the voice fell, Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin were no longer willing to stay at the first tower for even a minute. Today they had really lost face. After leaving through the entrance of the first tower, Nangong Yujin's face was gloomy. I did not expect such a thing to happen. At this moment the feelings in his heart could only be described as extremely regrettable. Originally he thought that today's harvest would be good. They never thought that it would not be a blessing but a loss of face. Nangong Xiujia's face was even uglier. Yujin, do you think that Bailey Hongzhuang is really Mo Yunjue's wife? I don't know. Nangong Yujin shook his head. If not, why would he help her? I don't know. Nangong Xiujia was also puzzled. He was quite certain that this was the first time Bailey Hongzhuang had appeared in the imperial capital. If this was the case, then Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Yunjue should not know each other. And if they did not know one another, it'd be impossible for Mo Yunjue to help her. He often came to the first tower, and although Mo Yunjue came and went like a ghost, he had still seen him several times. According to his understanding, Mo Yunjue had never been the kind of person who liked to help others. On the contrary, Mo Yunjue absolutely hated trouble. Was it really like this? Was Bailey Hongzhuang truly the wife of Mo Yunjue? It seems to be the only explanation. They also seemed very matching. After Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin left, the waiter also walked to the side of Mo Yunjue. Boss, you. Mo Yunjue lifted his right hand and stopped the waiter's words. Come here and clean up. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang returned the child to Mo Yunjue. Is this your child? Mo Yunjue shook his head. I don't even have a lady. How can I have a child? I just heard your conversation and borrowed the child from someone else. When the voice of Mo Yunjue fell, Xia Jiqing and the others felt relieved. It seemed that the situation was not as bad as they thought. This Mo Yunjue was just trying to help out. Hongzhuang, do you know this Mo Gongzi? Xia Jiqing could not help but ask. Looking at the way the two were talking together, it was clearly not the first time they met. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head as she smiled. Yes, let me introduce you all. This is Mo Yunjue. I met him a few times, he is my friend. If she had been unsure last time when they met in Longguang town, now she could definitely be certain that Mo Yunjue was her good friend. After all, she was not an ungrateful person and Mo Yunjue had helped her again today. It was clear that they were friends by now. Looking back at Mo Yunjue, Bailey Hongzhuang continued to introduce. These are my classmates from the Kanglin College. Mo Yunjue nodded slightly to everyone. It is a pleasure to meet you. Gong Xiaoqing. And the others also nodded in greeting. Their impression of Mo Yunjue was quite good. At least he had helped them solve a big issue just now. Thank you for just before, Bailey Hongzhuang said, as her eyes were filled with sincere gratitude. Mo Yunjue just shook his hand and said, I couldn't just watch. I hope you didn't mind. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I understand, you were just cooperating with me. When they heard Mo Yunjue say this, they had an even more favorable impression of him. It seems that this Mo Yunjue was truly a gentleman. Mo Gongzi, are you the boss of the first tower? Xia Jiqing could not forget how the waiter had referred to him as boss, and she looked at Mo Yunjue. In her eyes, the first tower was a very famous place. Yes, I am a businessman, he said, and he could not help but glance at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang was also finding it a bit comical. Although Mo Yunjue had said he was a businessman before, she had not felt he looked like one. She did not expect him to run such an ordinary business as a restaurant. This was out of her expectations. Mo Gongzi is a wonderful person who is very eloquent. The first tower is completely different from any other restaurant. Mo Gongzi is truly a dragon amongst men. Cui Haoyan praised. Chapter 688. Bailey Hongzhuang's ability. Cui Gongzi also has a good reputation. In the future you should come to the first tower often so we can all gather together. I'll naturally treat you all. Moyan answered in a calm manner. In the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang was a bit of doubt. She could not help but feel that the Mo Yunjue she saw today was a bit different from the one she had met at the Luoyun Mountains. At that time, Mo Yunjue had this gloomy aura around him, but now it was obviously much lighter. The only thing which had not changed was the pair of black eyes that was showing a dense darkness. After a bit of conversation, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others got up and left. They had been out for long enough. The two mentors and the vice president were likely to have already finished discussing the situation, and might even have returned. Mo Yunjue did not say much. He just sent them out the entrance to the first tower. Hongzhuang, I did not expect that you knew people in the Qing dynasty. Xia Jiqing's eyes sparkled with excitement. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly too powerful, and even they, as her friends, did not know too much about her. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. I have only met him twice. That he helped me today was also out of my expectations. Although Dongfang Yu and the others did not speak, they were also filled with admiration. Since they had gotten to know Bailey Hongzhuang, she had truly stunned them time and time again. But now they were used to it. I did not expect that Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujun turned out to be that kind of people. Although they did not do anything to us because of Mo Yunjue today, I believe they will do their best to cause problems when we enter the tournament. Zhang Yunfeng frowned. According to her judgment, Nangong Xiujie and Nanong Yujin were both people that would cause problems. She was afraid that there would be a lot of troubles in the future. Xia Jiqing put her hand on Zhang Yunfeng's shoulder, her face filled with a smile. Yunfeng, why do you worry so much? Even if we had not insulted them today, we were still destined to be enemies at the tournament. Thank you. Zhang Yunfeng couldn't help but laugh. That is also true, but we still have to be careful. The others nodded their heads. This college tournament was truly a feast of hongmen. I don't know how ugly Nangong Xiujie's expression will be when he realizes that we are students of the Kanglin College, Xia Jiqing said with a smile. I am sure it will be very exciting. Hongzhuang, when Nangong Xiujie finds out that you aren't Mo Yunjue's wife, will he blame Mo Yunjue? Cui Haoyan showed a hint of worry. Mo Yunjue had acted to save them, so naturally he was their friend now. They could leave the Qing dynasty after the tournament, but the restaurant of Mo Yunjue couldn't. If this would cause problems for Mo Yunjue, they would feel uncomfortable and guilty. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed strangely. It shouldn't be a problem. Since Mo Yunjue could make the two princes this afraid, then he must have some backing. She was certain that Mo Yunjue was not a simple character, and that his backing was rather outstanding. Otherwise it was impossible to cause even the emperor to be afraid. Since Mo Yunjue had helped them, he had to be certain that nothing would happen to him. After the return of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, it did not take long before Lu Huayan returned with Huan Chuyu. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Huan Chuyu slowly said, "You did a good thing today. Kanglin College is not to be humiliated like this. This matter was wrong by Lingying College." Even though he was usually a very kind person, at this moment, his face was showing traces of anger. The method that the Lingying College used was simply over the top. Xia Jiqing and the others were also relieved. Since even the vice principal agreed with their actions, they did not have to worry about anything. "We will stay in this inn and see how Lingying College intends to resolve this matter. Since they invited us to come, naturally it is their responsibility." The expression of Huan Chuyu revealed a trace of pride. Although the Lingying College was strong, the Kanglin College students and mentors were not soft persimmons either. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the room. They had full faith in the vice principal's ability to handle this matter. He was not only the vice principal at the Kanglin College, he was also a 4-tier alchemist. This is an identity, which was enough to attract the respect of others. At the same time, inside the Lingying College, things were starting to change. Wang Yulong's face was very ugly. He originally wanted to embarrass Kanglin College, but he did not want to be the one who was embarrassed. The vice president of Lingying College, Lin Yinghao, also had an ugly expression on his face. "This time you have gone too far. It is fine to go a little overboard, but the Kanglin College is not a vegetarian. They will not let you stomp all over them. It is clear that the team from Kanglin College has already made up their mind. Unless they come and personally invite them, then they would not return. Their college tournament was prepared especially for the Kanglin College. If they don't participate, then that will be equivalent to wasting all their hard work. The most important thing is that now Kanglin College was in charge. If the team did not participate, then Lingying College would get a reputation of being incompetent." Wang Yulong's eyes were also serious. Obviously this time he had gone too far, and he was not sure how to solve it. "Vice President, this was indeed too much, but I don't know what to do now." Wang Yulong looked at Lin Yinghao with a hopeful gleam in his eyes, hoping that he could save him and ensure that he did not lose his position in the college. "You were too reckless. It is impossible to not be punished. As for how to solve this problem, I will discuss it with the principal," Lin Yinghao said faintly. With Lin Yinghao's voice falling, Wang Yulong's heart sank. He understood that Lin Yinghao was telling the truth, and he was the one who had brought this problem onto himself. But why didn't he consider the reaction of the Kanglin College? The more he thought about their decisive attitude, the more he hated them. When the college tournament began, he would never let them off easily. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang got up early. They had heard about the Wubao Pavilion in the Qing dynasty. It was a place with treasures that all cultivators needed. Last night they had planned to go to Wubao Pavilion to look around, but the appearance of Nangong Xiujia had made them lose too much time, and they had to cancel. When Bailey Hongzhuang exited the room, she saw that Xia Jiqing and the others were already waiting for her outside. Currently they all thought that living in the inn was much better than living in the Lingying College. With the attitude Lingying College had towards them, it was clearly a matter of not being able to live well. Now that they lived outside, they were all very happy. There was no problem with coming and going as they pleased. "Hongzhuang, you are finally up." Xia Jiqing's face was filled with a happy smile as she quickly walked next to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head slightly. She could see that Xia Jiqing's mood was not affected by the college tournament, that she saw their trip to the Qing dynasty as an outing, and she could not help but smile. She had to admit that Xia Jiqing's mentality was really good. Ordinary things could not affect her mood at all. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, but also Zhang Yunfeng and the others felt that Xia Jiqing was a hyper person, which made them all feel much better. Since everyone has arrived, let's go, Dongfang Yu said as he looked at all of them. Wubao Pavilion was very famous in the Qing dynasty's imperial city. Just asking around, everyone knew the location of the pavilion. When they arrived in front of the Wubao Pavilion, their eyes could not help but widen slightly as they looked at the purple-black building. The building was delicate, and it was obvious that the architects had spent a lot of time thinking about the construction of this building. A strong sense of power came from the building, making everyone feel a sense of respect from just looking at it. Wubao Pavilion was split into 3 layers. The first layer had medication and herbs needed by the different cultivators. The second layer had weapons needed by cultivators, and the third and final layer had inscriptions. Not even mentioning the first and second layers. The third layer alone was enough to consolidate the status of Wubao Pavilion. Inscriptions had always been rare, and many practitioners had no way of getting in touch with such inscriptions. However, there were inscriptions in the Wubao Pavilion. How could cultivators not revere this place? They slowly walked into the Wubao Pavilion. As soon as they entered, they could see that the business was good. There were a lot of practitioners inside buying the medicines and herbs they needed. Medicines and herbs were easy to consume, and after they had been consumed they would be gone. As such, the cultivators had a great demand for them. The layout of this Wubao Pavilion was very different from other shops, and it was giving a sense of comfort when one was inside. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with a fascinating gleam of praise. Wubao Pavilion was truly a famous place within the imperial capital, and the things they had here were also eye-opening. The medicines and herbs in this Wubao Pavilion are so many, and many of the things that are hard to find and exceedingly rare can be found here. It was hard for Xia Jiqing to hide her excitement. The prices were naturally very high, but it was often so that, even if you had the money, you couldn't buy them. The amount of items in the Wubao Pavilion was without a doubt the most she had ever seen. It was clear why they were doing so well. Bai Junyu's face lit up with a smile that radiated like sunshine. This Qing dynasty is a big country. The number of alchemists is much higher than in smaller countries. Naturally, it can't be compared. Xia Jiqing nodded slightly. This was also the power of a big country. It was very rich. It was truly an eye-opener. If you need anything, then go buy it, Gong Shaoqing said slowly. The market price in Wubao Pavilion was quite fair, and one would not suffer a loss from buying their items here. For some time, everyone's eyes were on the counter, picking the medicinal herbs and pills they needed. Before coming to the Qing dynasty, they had prepared a lot of money, so if they saw something they needed, they would be able to purchase it. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at the things that were for sale, but she had no intention of buying anything. She was an alchemist herself after all. However, just as Xia Jiqing and the others were buying things, a familiar and provocative voice rang out from behind them. Hey, see who is here. It turned out to be the ones who can't even prove their own identity. Lu Jingqi's eyes were smug and filled with sarcasm. Yesterday, because of the mentors, she did not have the opportunity to humiliate Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Today they wanted to see the famous Wubao Pavilion. They had never expected they would run into them here. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other people slowly turned around. After seeing the group of cultivators from Beihai College, their faces changed slightly. I forgot to look at the calendar before going out today. When going out, I actually encountered something so unsavory. It really made my mood bad. Xia Jiqing did not hesitate to fight back. She was not going to eat a loss. Xia Jiqing, you are really poisonous. Lu Jingqi was gloomy, but after a bit she recovered. It's better than some people who were blocked in front of the door and can't enter. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Li Jingqi an indifferent glance and tuned to Xia Jiqing. Why do you care about what mad dogs are saying? They like to bark, but do you have to accompany them? She is really annoyed with this group. No matter where they go, they appear. They were like a group of annoying flies. Listening to the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, Xia Jiqing could not help but raise her thumb. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly too poisonous when she spoke. You are right, let them bark, why bother with them? Xia Jiqing smiled and nodded before she began continuing to choose which items to buy. Lu Jingqi and the others' faces turned immensely ugly at that moment. This Bailey Hongzhuang was so good at trash talking. They had tried to humiliate Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Now the words of Bailey Hongzhuang had made them fall into such an embarrassing situation. Bailey Hongzhuang, you can't be too much. Lu Jinglin could not help but say out loud. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled mockingly. Lu girl, what you said was really interesting. From the beginning to the end, you were looking for trouble. Now you are saying that I am too much? I think your logic is really quite something. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Lu Jingqi coldly, and then she said, if you want to continue, then let's just fight it out. If you do not wish to fight, then obediently shut your mouth. Don't continue to provoke us if you are cowards. The words of Bailey Hongzhuang were very strong. This group of people were all bark but no bite. Although they were afraid of fighting, they were constantly finding trouble. As soon as it was said, Lu Jingqi and the others looked at each other, and their faces turned embarrassed. They could not help but look at Xiao Lanmei. But they could see that he had already gone to the counter to pick his goods, and was not paying attention to them. Obviously Xiao Lanmei had no interest in what they were doing, and if they truly became hands-on, Lu Jingqi would be beaten. In their minds the two Lu sisters could only give up their plans. Not long after, Xia Jiqing and the others had picked the herbs and medicines they needed, and went to the second floor of the Wubao Pavilion. I heard that Wubao Pavilion's weapons are very famous. The quality of the weapons here are much better than elsewhere. Zhang Yunfeng's pretty face revealed a happy expression. For cultivators, the weapon they used was extremely important. The expressions of Xia Jiqing and the others also appeared interested. As their strength had gradually increased, their current weapons had become unsuitable. They needed to buy some that fit their current strength. I don't know how many weapons this Wubao Pavilion has, but I am quite sure that it should not disappoint us. Dongfang Yu smiled. The alluring peach eyes were filled with boundless charm. When they saw the dazzling weapons on the second floor, all of them had stunned expressions on their faces. So many weapons, they really had not expected this. Swords, knives, staves, polearms, whips, everything could be found here, all of which were in different quality and with different price points. Dear guests, are you here to buy weapons? A female shop assistant came to the front of their crowd. Her face was beautiful, and she held a graceful smile on her lips. I want to buy a sword, Cui Haoyan answered. His sword had been used for a couple of years, and now there were 2 dents on it. It was no longer suitable for him to use. He had already wanted to change it earlier, but he had not been able to find something suitable. There were so many weapons in the Wubao Pavilion. He hoped to find a sword that suited him. Please come with me. The shop assistant smiled slightly, turned her body and lifted her left hand, indicating for Cui Haoyan to follow her. Zhang Yunfeng also went together with Cui Haoyan, while the others began observing the many weapons on display. With so many treasures gathered here, it was easy to see how strong of a background the Wubao Pavilion had. If there was no strong background, then it would be impossible to create such a place like this. Xia Jiqing's gaze fell on a red and long whip that was laying in front of her. The long whip was extremely tough, but at the same time very beautiful. It was a treasure. Jiqing, this long whip is suitable for you. Zhang Yunfeng smiled. Xia Jiqing smiled slightly, but when her eyes fell onto the high price of the whip, she let go of it and placed it back. She was not favored in her family. She did not have much money on her, so she couldn't buy this even if she wanted it. Lu Qingyue was together with Gong Shaoqing. Since yesterday where Gong Shaoqing said that he was her fiancé, Lu Qingyue had been very happy. Even if it is fake, she still feels that her relationship with Gong Shaoqing had gotten closer. Yu Zhang Yunfeng, Bailey Hongzhuang, and Xia Jiqing were standing together, looking at Lu Qingyue, who was walking behind Gong Shaoqing like a small chick following its mother. The 3 could not help but sigh. Lu Qingyue really likes Gong Shaoqing. Gong Shaoqing only helped her out, but she is already this excited. Zhang Yunfeng shook her head and sighed. She had known Gong Shaoqing for a long time. and she was very clear that he only viewed Lu Qingyue as a sister. However, Lu Qingyue never understood this. Lu Qingyue has her persistence. Maybe it will bring success in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang answered gently. The feelings between other people was not something they could mess with. That Lu girl looks good, her strength is good, and she is also an alchemist. I do not understand why Gong Shaoqing does not like her. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with a bit of helplessness. This kind of situation was really enough to make her embarrassed. When the voice of Xia Jiqing fell, Zhang Yunfeng's eyes landed on her body, and a teasing smile appeared on her lips. Jiqing, from what I can see, Bai Junyu is also very good toward you. I don't know what you think about him. When the words came out, Xia Jiqing quickly sighed. Yunfeng, what are you talking about? Bai Junyu and me? There is nothing going on between us. Oh. Bailey Hongzhuang also chuckled slightly, and placed her hand on Xia Jiqing's shoulder. Look over there, Bai Junyu is watching you. Xia Jiqing could not help but look towards Bai Junyu, and sure enough, he was looking at her as he smiled. When seeing this, Zhang Yunfeng and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at one another, feeling it quite funny. As early as when the school year began, they had already realized that Bai Junyu felt that Xia Jiqing was special to him. But Xia Jiqing seemed to have no awareness of this. You're all talking nonsense. Xia Jiqing left the sentence before she ran to another place to look at weapons. Bailey Hongzhuang and Zhang Yunfeng could only feel helpless. It seems that Bai Junyu wants to be a couple with Jiqing, but I still think he has a way to go, Zhang Yunfeng said with a smile. If you really like someone, who cares about spending more time getting close? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly, and picked up the long whip that Xia Jiqing had put down before. Although she and Xia Jiqing were good sisters, she had not asked much about Xia Jiqing's family. But now it seemed that she was somewhat similar to her. Cui Haoyan was very happy to have found a weapon in the Wubao Pavilion. With this weapon his strength would have improved by a bit. As for Gong Shaoqing and the others, although they admired the weapons, they had no need for new ones, so they bought nothing. Then everyone's eyes fell on the stairs leading towards the third floor. There should be inscriptions on the third floor. I have lived for so long, and heard of inscriptions many times, but I have never seen one before. Zhang Yunfeng could not help but smile. Lu Qingyue's face was also filled with different emotions. Inscriptions are very rare. This Wubao Pavilion is able to sell them. It is really amazing. Let's go up. If we can get an inscription for our weapon, that'd be so amazing. Cui Haoyan just bought a new weapon, and he was very happy. If he could find an inscription that was suitable for his weapon, then his strength would be increased even further. Just as they were excited and wanted to go up, a sales assistant reminded them. Dear guests, there are inscriptions on the third floor, but you have to whisper when you go up. If you disturb the inscription masters, you will likely be driven out. Listening to the kind reminder of the sales assistant, everyone nodded seriously. Inscription masters were more rare than alchemists, and they had strange tempers. They should pay attention to their behavior. However, the hearts of everyone became even more excited. They had never even seen an inscription, much less an inscription master. It was really worth coming to the Wubao Pavilion today. When everyone reached the third floor of the Wubao Pavilion, they were slightly stunned. What greeted them looked very different from what they had thought. That Lu girl looks good, her strength is good, and she is also an alchemist. I do not understand why Gong Shaoqing does not like her. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with a bit of helplessness. This kind of situation was really enough to make her embarrassed. When the voice of Xia Jiqing fell, Zhang Yunfeng's eyes landed on her body, and a teasing smile appeared on her lips. Jiqing, from what I can see, Bai Junyu is also very good toward you. I don't know what you think about him. When the words came out, Xia Jiqing quickly sighed. Yunfeng, what are you talking about? Bai Junyu and me? There is nothing going on between us. Oh. Bailey Hongzhuang also chuckled slightly, and placed her hand on Xia Jiqing's shoulder. Look over there, Bai Junyu is watching you. Xia Jiqing could not help but look towards Bai Junyu, and sure enough, he was looking at her as he smiled. When seeing this, Zhang Yunfeng and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at one another, feeling it quite funny. As early as when the school year began, they had already realized that Bai Junyu felt that Xia Jiqing was special to him. But Xia Jiqing seemed to have no awareness of this. "You're all talking nonsense." Xia Jiqing left the sentence before she ran to another place to look at weapons. Bailey Hongzhuang and Zhang Yunfeng could only feel helpless. "It seems that Bai Junyu wants to be a couple with Jiqing, but I still think he has a way to go," Zhang Yunfeng said with a smile. "If you really like someone, who cares about spending more time getting close?" Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly and picked up the long whip that Xia Jiqing had put down before. Although she and Xia Jiqing were good sisters, she had not asked much about Xia Jiqing's family. But now it seemed that she was somewhat similar to her. Cui Haoyan was very happy to have found a weapon in the Wubao Pavilion. With this weapon his strength would have improved by a bit. As for Gong Shaoqing and the others, although they admired the weapons, they had no need for new ones, so they bought nothing. Then everyone's eyes fell on the stairs leading towards the third floor. There should be inscriptions on the third floor. "I have lived for so long, and heard of inscriptions many times, but I have never seen one before." Zhang Yunfeng could not help but smile. Lu Qingyue's face was also filled with different emotions. Inscriptions are very rare. This Wubao Pavilion is able to sell them. It is really amazing. "Let's go up. If we can get an inscription for our weapon, that'd be so amazing." Cui Haoyan just bought a new weapon, and he was very happy. If he could find an inscription that was suitable for his weapon, then his strength would be increased even further. Just as they were excited and wanted to go up, a sales assistant reminded them. "Dear guests, there are inscriptions on the third floor, but you have to whisper when you go up. If you disturb the inscription masters, you will likely be driven out." Listening to the kind reminder of the sales assistant, everyone nodded seriously. Inscription masters were more rare than alchemists, and they had strange tempers. They should pay attention to their behavior. However, the hearts of everyone became even more excited. They had never even seen an inscription, much less an inscription master. It was really worth coming to the Wubao Pavilion today. When everyone reached the third floor of the Wubao Pavilion, they were slightly stunned. What greeted them looked very different from what they had thought. They started to think, with so many people present, only one could buy an inscription? So many people want to buy. Who will be allowed to buy one then? Gong Shaoqing asked politely. The rules for the sale ought to have a certain reason. There are 2 rules. The one who can answer this question will be able to get an inscription for free. If no one can answer the question, then the highest bidder wins. The sales assistant's face was smiling. He was naturally used to seeing this situation. Dear guests, you all came early today, and the inscription has yet to be sold. With the voice of the waiter falling, everyone was feeling excited. They still had a chance. What is the question? There was a look of interest in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. The problem of this Wubao Pavilion could not be simple, since just answering it would be able to get an inscription free of charge. Presumably the question was impossible to answer. The eyes of everyone fell onto the shop assistant. The next moment the waiter took a piece of paper and placed it onto the desk in front of them. This is the question. When making an inscription liquid, how do you make azure spirit wood grain and tailless marble dissolve? When everyone saw this problem, they were all dumbfounded. They knew nothing about inscriptions. Don't even mention the question. They did not even know what azure spirit wood grain and tailless marble was. This kind of problem, only an inscription master can answer. Xia Jiqing said and felt a little sad. She knew the problem wouldn't be simple, but this was far too difficult. Lu Jingqi and the others faced each other. They simply knew nothing about it. This was impossible to answer. Seeing the look of these people, the sales assistant was not surprised. In fact, basically no one can answer the questions made by these inscription masters. However, the inscriptions were very precious. It was not a simple matter to take one out for free. After seeing this question, Bailey Hongzhuang found it somewhat fun. The inscription masters had intentionally made it difficult for everyone. Even those with a little bit of understanding about inscriptions would be unable to answer. If she thought about it a bit, She can't help but think that the elders were doing it on purpose. From the beginning till the end they never intended to give it out for free. It was just to make everyone understand and retreat. If there is no such rule, they were afraid people would complain about only selling one inscription a day. As for the result, the attention of people had been transferred. No one knows the answer, so let's just see who has the most money, Xue Haoling said. Obviously no one at the scene could answer in his opinion. The eyes of Xia Jiqing and the others fell on Xue Haoling's body. They knew he was a rich young master. However, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly said, "Who said that no one can answer this question?" When the words came out, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a puzzled expression. "Bailey Hanswang, you should not be stubborn. You'll just end up as a joke." Lu Jingqi sneered. An inscription master was not someone easy to come into contact with, and it was impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to know about inscriptions. Xiao Lanmei looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in a strange way. This kind of moment was not ideal to show off in. In fact, only an inscription master could answer this kind of question. Xia Jiqing and the others were also puzzled. They only know that Bailey Hongzhuang is an alchemist. They never knew she had an understanding about inscriptions. Take the azure spirit wood grain and the tailless marble, and grind them, then mix them with the juice of a green jade vine tree. Cook it with fire. Then it will immediately dissolve, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Lu Jingqi and the others saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was completely self-confident, and they became doubtful. What was the green jade vine tree juice? They had never heard about it before. Lu Qingyue's heat was also filled with doubt. She knew about medicinal herbs, but she knew nothing about metal ores or the like. When Bai Jingtian and the others listened to Bailey Hongzhuang, their eyes suddenly shone brightly. The answer she had given was exactly what they had been discussing. This girl seemed to have some knowledge about inscriptions, and the answer she gave was so simple. The problem had plagued them for 3 days, and yet they had not found a solution yet. As for experiments, they had done many before, and when they were younger, an explosion would have been no problem. It's just that they are older now. If it really exploded, they'd lose their lives. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was ready to leave, Bai Jingtian quickly asked, "Little girl, what would you add?" Bailey Hongzhuang turned to face Bai Jingtian and the others. Her lips curled into a smile. "Star powder." "Star powder?" Bai Jingtian and the others looked at each other with a moment of enlightenment. Star powder is very soft, and together with the condensate liquid it can neutralize the violent nature of the fiery ardent stone, alongside the coolness of the black crown gold ore. Ji Yanma said, "Oh, I never thought about it." Bai Jingtian slapped his head. He had thought of many solutions, but he did not think about star powder before. Qin Qingyi nodded. "Just this star powder is also a problem. A small amount is not enough, but if we use too much it will also be useless." All three were surprised. They had never before seen a young person like Bailey Hongzhuang before. What's more, this girl was only a teenager. How could she understand it so well? It was hard to encounter such a good seedling. How could they allow her to leave now? Bai Jingtian couldn't help but say, "Little girl, quickly come back and tell us." He had thought about this question for a long time, and could find no solution. Now it was amazing that a little girl knew the answer when she heard them talk. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was not going to follow the script. "Dear predecessors, you have already told this young one to leave. It so happens that I have some things I need to finish, so I will take my leave." Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was ready to leave, Bai Jingtian and the other people were so anxious that they quickly got up and went to her side. Bai Jingtian looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. His face was gently and held a smile. "Little girl isn't happy with how things were before? This young one wouldn't dare to be unhappy," Bailey Hongzhuang said faintly. "This old man apologizes to you for before. Come and discuss with us, how much star powder should we use?" Bai Jingtian smiled, and did not feel any shame from apologizing to a junior. As soon as she saw Bai Jingtian, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but think of the old guys in her previous Bailey family. They were clearly the same kind of adorable old men. Not waiting for an answer from Bailey Hongzhuang, Bai Jingtian and Ji Yanma had already pulled Bailey Hongzhuang into one of the chairs. Lu Jingqi squinted at the scene in front of her eyes. The situation changed too fast, and she was too stunned. What kind of joke was this? Did Bailey Hongzhuang really understand inscriptions? Not only that, she even solved a problem that these three masters were plagued by. How could this be? However, all of this was true. Not only Lu Jingqi, the people at the counter also noticed this scene. They all saw that the three inscription masters were angry, but suddenly they all changed their attitude, and even apologized to Bailey Hongzhuang. So astonishing! What did Bailey Hongzhuang do? My God! Are those three inscription masters? They even apologized to Hongzhuang. She's simply a little freak. Zhang Yunfeng could not help but feel that when Bailey Hongzhuang acted it was simply earth-shattering. Her little heart could not handle this much excitement. Dongfang Yu's eyes were also filled with appreciation. Bailey Hongzhuang was too outstanding and always dazzling. When did Hongzhuang learn about so much about inscriptions? She even knows so much about them. Hongzhuang is my idol. Xia Jiqing's eyes were filled with reverence. In her heart Bailey Hongzhuang was omnipotent. Even inscriptions, such a difficult thing, she knew about. She had doubts about how it was possible for Bailey Hongzhuang to know so many things. Bailey Hongzhuang was only 16 years old. She was strong, proficient in alchemy, and now it seemed that she was also knowledgeable about inscriptions. Even if she had used all her time since she was born, it would be hard to be this accomplished, but it had really happened in front of her. Lu Qingyue's face was also filled with shock. From the time she was born she had always been called a genius by everyone. Not only was her strength superior to most, but she also had excellent talent for alchemy. However, only she knew how difficult it was for her to learn how to refine pills. And she never felt that she had enough time. If it was not accompanied by a strong determination, she'd never have succeeded. However, Bailey Hongzhuang not only had cultivation and alchemy, she also had time to understand inscription. Was she even human? The most important thing was that she was able to answer the question of the three inscription masters. It could be seen that Bailey Hongzhuang's knowledge about inscriptions was not shallow. She should be very proficient in inscriptions. When thinking about this, Lu Qingyue felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was a real freak. She could not imagine the future achievements of Bailey Hongzhuang. What a freak! Lu Jinglin had a disdainful look in her eyes. She would never admit that Bailey Hongzhuang was good. Maybe she just happened to hear someone mention the answer to this question. At such a tender age, how could she possibly understand and answer the questions of the inscription masters otherwise? When thinking about it, no one believed that the answer was something that Bailey Hongzhuang had come up with on her own. After making sure that Bailey Hongzhuang was seated, Bai Jingtian could not help but ask, "Little girl, how should we add the star powder? When should we add it?" After knowing that they could use star powder, he had more or less understood the problem. However, he wanted to know if this little girl would come up with the same solution as him. First add the fiery ardent stone, and then the black crow gold oregon. Add the condensate liquid together for 5 minutes, and then add it. For inscriptions, Bailey Hongzhuang did not have absolute confidence, but she was very confident in configuring inscription liquids. Because during the time she had learned inscriptions in the Ring of Chaos, she had learned about the properties and different metal ores, and what else to pay attention to when configuring inscription liquid. Just like the first thing to understand when studying alchemy was the understanding of the herbs. Only after learning the herbs could one start learning alchemy. The old man within the Ring of Chaos had a deep understanding towards inscriptions. Her memory was also very good. She was able to remember a large amount of metal ores, and the differences between these metal ores in the long time she had been studying. Up until now, she still had a lot of things that were hard to understand for her. But most of the problems about configuring inscription liquid could be solved by her. However, when the words of Bailey Hongzhuang fell, Bai Jingtian and the others all had puzzled expressions on their faces. This method was different from the one they had expected. Why should we add it after 5 minutes? Ji Yinmo asked. He had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so accurate, but he felt that this could be the correct way to do it, making him feel very excited. Star powder is a very strange thing. If it is added before this, the star powder will be added into the liquid. If the quantity is too little, it will not be able to completely neutralize it either. If you add too much, the effect of the inscription liquid will also drop a lot. The effect of the inscription drawn with that liquid will be greatly reduced. Therefore, after 5 minutes of trying to melt the two ores, when the conflict between the fiery ardent stone and the black crow gold ore is getting more and more intense, just add a small amount of star powder, then the problem will be completely solved. The exquisite and perfect face was filled with confidence. The eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang fell on the three elders. I don't know what you three seniors felt about it. Bai Jingtian and the other two had fallen into deep contemplation. What Bailey Hongzhuang had said was very reasonable. What they had been thinking about before was to put these materials together before smelting them. But Bailey Hongzhuang's method was much more suitable. Somehow this young little girl had opened a new door for them, making their vision wider. Yes, this method is excellent. It perfectly solves the problem. Qin Qingyi was simply too excited. No matter what angle he considered it from, there was no problems with this. If there was no such solution, they were afraid they would have been fighting seriously to solve this problem. Bai Jingtian smiled a happy smile and asked, "Little girl, what is your name?" Compared to the previous dissatisfaction with Bailey Hongzhuang, Bai Jingtian was now much more happy, and found her extremely pleasing to the eye. Such a young and promising junior. He had not seen one in many years. It was indeed a great seedling in the inscription world. Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang stood up and saluted the elders. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang being so polite, Bai Jingtian's eyes were filled with admiration. Such young people were rare. "Bailey girl, how could you know how to solve this problem?" Ji Yanma could not help but ask. The age of Bailey Hongzhuang was just too young. If she was older, it'd not be so amazing as it was now. Oh! Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment, and then thought of the excuse she had used earlier. It seemed it was time to use it again. The younger generation had previously learned a lot from my master, so I was able to answer the question. Bai Jingtian and the other two men looked at each other. The answer of Bailey Hongzhuang was modest, however the meaning was clear. Thinking like this, Bai Jingtian and the others felt that the master of Bailey Hongzhuang was in no way a simple character. "Bailey girl, I wonder if you can tell me your master's name?" Qin Qingwu's eyes were filled with curiosity. This famous teacher might be someone world-renowned. The fact that Bailey Hongzhuang could have such achievements at such a young age showed that her master could not be a nobody. Bailey Hongzhuang tried hard not to laugh as she answered, "My master has a strange temper. He is like a wild crane who likes to wander the world. He does not like me telling his name." Hearing this by Jingtian, and the other two were not finding it strange. Some supreme experts like to live the life of a wild crane. Even they, as elders, were too lazy to pay attention to many disputes and issues in the mundane world. They just wanted to live leisurely lives. "We understand." Bai Jingtian waved his hand. "Your master must be renowned to be able to teach such a good student like yourself." Bai Jingtian knew that although he was an inscription master, next to Bailey Hongzhuang's master, he could not lift his head at all. Because the disciple of this man could solve a problem they could not understand. This meant that the other was simply too powerful. "Girl, I have a question here. It is good if you could answer it for me." Ji Yanmo revealed a curious gleam in his eyes. He wanted to know how much knowledge Bailey Hongzhuang had about inscriptions. Answering their question might just be a fluke. Maybe she had just randomly heard her master mention this one question. Unless she could answer other questions, she was quite useless. "Please ask." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled gently, and Bai Jingtian exchanged glances with the other men. She seemed to have returned to her past life where the old men had been trying to teach her and test her. She really missed this feeling. Cat's eye-colored glass stones and fiery ardent stones. How do you dissolve them together into an inscription liquid? Fiery ardent stones were a metal that was often used when making inscriptions of the fire attribute. But because it was so violent, it was easy to have problems. Therefore the inscription masters had a lot of questions about this stone. It was a love and hate relationship. By Jing Tian and Qin Qinggu also smiled as they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. They also wanted to know if she could answer this question. The eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the three faces, and a gentle smile spread on her lips. Cat's eye-colored glass stones are mild, and has no problem being mixed with the fiery ardent stone. It is just that the cat's eye-colored glass stones are so hard that it is difficult to grind them into powder. However, it can be done if you add a bit of black meteor liquid. Then it can be dissolved. However, I had this idea that with the compatibility of the two, if you add a bit of fine powder from the gold-plated stone, I think that the effect of the inscription liquid would be even better. Bailey Hongzhuang said directly. This was an idea she came up with after getting an extensive understanding of the different metal ores. At the same time, she also has her own ideas. Just like the old man in the Ring of Chaos, he often made some unexpected mixes, and after some time achieved good results. Inscriptions is an art that required a variety of experiments to increase the performance of the inscription liquid. Golden-plated stone powder? By Jing Tian frowned slightly. This idea had never been proposed before. But the golden-plated stone powder really had this possibility. If this is really possible, then the inscriptions he could draw would be increased in strength again. At the thought of this, Bai Jingtian was suddenly even more excited. No, I have to go back and try it. This method is really good. Bai Jingtian was filled with excitement. Why did he never think about this possibility before? Not only Bai Jingtian, also Ji Yanma and Qin Qinggu were enlightened by Bailey Hongzhuang's idea. Over the years, some issues had been causing them to have problems with their inscriptions. At this moment, the few words of Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to help them enter a whole new world. Some of the problems that have been impossible to solve before were suddenly being able to find a solution to with her way of thinking. I need to hurry back and test these ideas. I will come back and talk with you later. Ji Yanma was the first to say. At this current moment, many thoughts were flashing in his mind, and he had to go back now to try them all out. Otherwise, if this inspiration vanished and he forgot about it, then he would regret it. Seeing the three men vanish like this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but grin. These old men were truly adorable. As soon as they were deeply engrossed in an idea, they had no chance to think about anything else. Wasn't this just too adorable? Lu Jinqi looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, unsure of what to say. It was obvious to her now that Bailey Hongzhuang truly understood inscriptions. Not only did she understand inscriptions, she was able to discuss with the inscription masters on equal footing, and even help these masters resolve some doubts. It would be reasonable to say that at her current age, that was impossible. Bailey Hongzhuang was simply a monster. Seeing that the three inscription masters left like the wind one by one, Xia Jiqing and the others could not help but come to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Their eyes were filled with doubt. Hongzhuang, what happened? Xia Jiqing looked towards the exit. What happened to the three inscription masters? Not only Xia Jiqing, Gong Xiaoqing, and the others were all looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with doubt. This was too weird. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. They just thought of some very important questions. Everyone listened to Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, but the doubts within their hearts did not dissipate. What kind of question could make all of them rush away in such a hurry? The cultivators of Beihai College could not help but look at Lu Jingqi. They had previously worried that the inscription masters would be unhappy if they came too close, so they dared not advance. Therefore they had no understanding of what happened. Lu Jingqi shook her head at them. She was not sure how to explain it. Okay, has the inscription been picked out? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. We picked one that was suitable for Gong Xiaoqing. Xia Jiqing smiled. Cui Haoyan, and the others also nodded their heads. Gong Xiaoqing was the strongest among them, when not counting Bailey Hongzhuang. With the strength of this inscription, his strength would definitely improve once more. As a result, he would be able to gain an even better result at the college tournament. After all, the college tournament would only care for the first place. The first place cultivator would determine the winner of the entire tournament. Depending on what college they came from, that college would win the tournament. Although they all thought they would do well, they might as well do their best to optimize their success rate. Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Xiaoqing were the two most promising people. Therefore, in the time of selecting who should have the inscription, no one was in doubt. Gong Xiaoqing was the one they all wanted to have it. That's great. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. Gong Xiaoqing was already strong, and now he was even stronger. When the cultivators of Beihai College saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had solved the situation so indifferently, they also found it somewhat unbelievable. As a cultivator, was it really possible to be so modest? What mattered most was your own strength. The cultivators of Kanglin College were really different. They even faintly thought that they were too promising, but they quickly let go of their thought again. Since we've already chosen one, let's leave. Bailey Hongzhuang was smiling sweetly. Wubao Pavilion was truly worthy of its name. But they had already seen it all. There was no point in staying any longer. Hearing this, everyone nodded their heads as they quickly headed for the stairs. Dear guests, walk slowly. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were leaving, the shop assistant rushed out to say goodbye. The girl was simply too amazing and deserved respect. This was the first time someone had been able to answer the question. And it was also the first time that the three inscription masters had treated anyone like this. This alone showed how amazing Bailey Hongzhuang was. After the people left the Wubao Pavilion, the practitioners of Beihai College also decided to leave very fast. However, they secretly decided to hurry back early in the following morning. Even if the price was high, they would get an inscription. Since they sold an inscription a day, they still had a chance. Let's return to the inn, Lu Qinghua said. The originally happy and excited mood was a bit complicated after meeting Beihai College. This group of people truly destroyed the mood. Xia Jiqing nodded slightly. We met a group of people who can destroy someone's appetite. I don't feel like walking about right now. Xia Jiqing's words did nothing to hide anything, so the sound could easily be heard by others. The cultivators of Beihai College also heard it, their expression becoming ugly in an instant. When the tournament begins, we have to teach them how to behave. Lu Jingqi's face was full of anger. Ever since meeting Xia Jiqing and the others, her mood had been bad. Jingqi, that Bailey Hongzhuang really understood inscriptions? Lu Jinglin went to the side of Lu Jingwei and grabbed her hand. The eyes were filled with curiosity. Lu Jingqi nodded slightly. Looking at the way she was speaking with the three inscription masters, she should have understood them. Hearing the answer from Lu Jingqi, the feelings of Xue Haolang and the others changed slightly. Being an inscriptionist was a very respected profession. Being an inscriptionist meant that one had a much higher status than others. I did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would be an inscriptionist. Xiao Lanmei's lips curled into a slight smile, but it did not reach his eyes, which stayed emotionless. The next morning, Huan Qiu gathered Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. The reason for this was that the president and the vice president of the Lingying College had personally come to pick them up. This result did not surprise Bailey Hongzhuang. She had already been expecting it. Old friend, long time no see. A middle-aged man wearing a black robe slowly walked in. Compared to Huan Qiu, he was a lot younger. However, the appearance and temperament showed that he was far from ordinary. At a simple glance at him, Bailey Hongzhuang had already guessed his identity. This arrogant man was the principal of Lingying College. Jian Qingqiu. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.